It's been almost 2 years since Boston had a permanent superintendent of schools. The new superintendent comes to Boston from Los Angeles after experience in district public schools and charter schools. But before he officially began his new position, he also traveled far in Boston on a learning and listening tour. And we'd like to welcome the new superintendent of the Boston Public Schools, Dr. Tommy Cheng. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank
Doctor.
you, Chris.
First of all, talk about your perceptions of Boston here, your impressions, and how this is different from what you've seen before.
I would say that Boston is so rich in resources. This is a city where everyone has a strong opinion about Boston Public Schools because they care so deeply. I have been so impressed with the teachers and the parents and the administrators I've met and all my school visits. I've been so impressed with the students. I believe there's just incredible bright spots for us to learn from and for us to grow from.
Of all the bright spots, which did you find intriguing?
So just earlier, we were talking a little bit about Boston International. This is a school that serves a group of students who are of deep need. And for example, I had an opportunity, this was my very first bus stop, to meet with a group of students who were newcomers to this country, and sat down and had lunch with a young lady who was recently immigrated from El Salvador, and she was sharing with me her story over her young life and how she hasn't been going to school for 4 years. But coming to this country and coming to this school, she has absolutely loved the school and loved all the adults that have embraced her and brought her into America.
Well, what I get a sense of from reading about some of your comments and your experience is that you want to do something to take the innovation in these schools to a next level, to change the chemistry, get away from the kind of siloed, pigeonholed kind of student working by themselves. Is that something we're going to see more of, you think?
I believe the opportunity here in Boston and the opportunity across this country is to redefine where learning takes place for children. Especially in a place like Boston, learning does not have to take place just within the confines of a school classroom or within the acreage of a school building or even within the confines of a school day or a school year. Learning could take place beyond all these constraints, and especially in Boston, where we see such a wealth of resources across the city, I believe learning should be taking place everywhere.
And now, I know this sounds like innovation policy talk, but take me back to when you were growing up. You come from an immigrant family, you're multilingual, and you said, how did that happen? I mean, how did you end up doing so much better than so many of the rest of us, including people who are not immigrants?
Yeah, I would say that it started with my first grade teacher. So my first day in America, I vividly remember my first grade teacher, Miss Helen Cowles. She was my hero in first grade. She actually saved me from some potentially disastrous experiences when I first came to America, but she taught me English. She taught me how to read and write. She embraced my my love for the arts and sciences. She made me a leader in the classroom, even though I didn't speak English. And so I fundamentally believe that if it wasn't for my experience with my first grade teacher, I would not nearly be as successful as I am today.
Making a student a leader, a lot of us grew up when that was just for a few students. What about now?
I believe every single individual has the ability to contribute to kind of the community right around them. So leadership should not be isolated to just a few. Leadership is a responsibility for everybody. So how we teach students to be agents of change in their own lives and in their own communities is so critical.
One of the things that you're going to be challenged with coming into Boston is closing some of the gaps. One of them is the achievement gap, especially with Black and Latino males on the lower side. One interesting question is, we've looked at some places in the Boston public schools where they seem to be making headway in that, and someone else says, well, what about charter schools? What do you see as promising to deal with that gap?
So what I would say that it's not just an achievement gap here in Boston, it's an opportunity gap. When we look at who actually has access to the highest quality programs, which students have access to the most rigorous programs, you do see racial and economic gaps in those who have the most promising opportunities and those that may not have the same opportunities. I think it's our job to have this conversation as a community to make this data very transparent, because I think there is a deep belief in this entire city that when we elevate the rigor of curriculum, when we elevate access to highest quality programs for all kids, this is great for the city of Boston, great for this United States of America.
Of course, we also have a gap in teachers, because we need more people of color, people who are more closely matched with the student body. Any promising ways you see to make that better?
I would say I'm deeply committed to figuring out how do we bring a teaching workforce and a leadership workforce that more represents the diversity of our students. But that's not just a racial diversity, that's also economic diversity, it's also cultural diversity, it is linguistic diversity. I think that's really important to point out that diversity means many things. I also have been so impressed with the teachers and administrators that are already in our building. I have not met one teacher or one administrator that does not wholeheartedly believe in the potential of all students. Been super impressed with the adults who are responsible for the education of youth in Boston.
I know it seems kind of late to be saying this, but we're coming to the end of the school year finally. So any thoughts now about that and your tour?
Yeah, I want to say congratulations to the teachers and the school administration of our schools. It was a really tough year. I had the experience of being here in January and February, and all the days that students were out, all the makeup days now at the end of the year. Just so a lot of congratulations to them. I want to congratulate and thank the parents, and also most important, the students. I want to tell the students, have a safe summer, have a very productive summer. There's a lot going on in Boston during the summer. Continue the learning this summer.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Boston, Superintendent Dr. Tommy Chang.